Hello everyone. So we have completed two modules from this subject. Till now we have seen the force due to point charges, and we have seen the Coulomb's law and the electric field intensity, and also we have gone through the electric flux density, Gauss's law, right, and the potential, right. So in the next topic, that is the third module, we have two different chapters. One is the Poisson's and Laplace's equations. The other one is steady magnetic field. So these Poisson's and Laplace's equations, they are one of the very important equations in electrostatics. Okay. So what we have seen so far is we have obtained the electric field intensity and electric flux density using Coulomb's law and Gauss's law. Using Coulomb's law and Gauss's law. Yeah, using these laws, it is easy for us only if the charge distribution or the potential throughout the region is known. Okay, if the charge distribution or the potential is known throughout the region, then we can easily use this Coulomb's law or Gauss's law and find electric field intensity or the electric flux density, right? But normally what happens is we will not be knowing the charge distribution or potential in the entire region. Okay, so practically it's not possible to know the charge distribution or potential throughout the region, but they will be known only at some boundaries of the region. Okay, they'll be known only at some boundaries or at some point or at some interface between one medium or the other. So we will be knowing the charge distribution or the potential variation. So from these values, that is from the values at the boundary, we are supposed to obtain the potential, and thereby we can obtain electric field intensity throughout the entire region. Okay, from the boundary values, we are supposed to get the potential and electric field intensity for the entire region. So such problems in electrostatics, we call them the boundary value problems. Okay, we call them boundary value problems. And uh, these boundary value problems, they can be solved using different methods. One of the methods is to know the Poisson's and Laplace's equations. Okay, so to solve such boundary value problems, we are going to use these Poisson's and Laplace's equations. So we are going to derive these equations, Laplace's and Poisson's equations, from Gauss's law. Okay, from the point form of Gauss's law, we have this point form of Gauss's law as del dot D is equal to rho v, right? That is divergence of electric flux density is equal to the volume charge density, right? This is point form of Gauss's law. You can take this as equation number 1. Okay. Now, from the definition of this D, electric flux density in a homogeneous medium, the electric flux density is equal to epsilon into E, where epsilon is the permittivity of the medium. If at all the medium is a free space or air, epsilon is equal to epsilon naught. So we will consider a general medium where D is equal to epsilon into E, right? And also from the gradient relationship, we know that E is equal to minus del V. We have obtained this equation, that is electric field intensity is negative potential gradient, right? That is E is equal to minus del V. So you take this as equation number 3, and then you substitute these equation number 2 and 3 in this equation number 1. Okay, so in place of D we can use epsilon E, in place of E we can use del V. Then what we will get is del dot D, you can write it as del dot epsilon E. In place of D you can use epsilon E. Then in place of E, I can use minus del V. So it will be del dot epsilon into minus del V, that is in the LHS, that is equal to rho V. So here from this equation, I can take minus epsilon outside. Then what we will have is del dot del, right? Del dot del of V is equal to rho V. Okay, del dot del V is equal to rho V. Minus epsilon into del dot del V is equal to rho V. Or in other words, del dot del V is equal to minus rho V divided by epsilon. If I take this epsilon to the RHS, it will come to the denominator, right? So it is del dot del V is equal to minus rho V divided by epsilon. Okay, you can take this as equation number 4. Now this operation, that is del dot del, we can take it as del square. Okay, del dot del can be considered as del square. We write it like this, del square. So del square V is equal to minus rho V divided by epsilon. So what we obtain is del square V is equal to minus rho V divided by epsilon. So this you take it as equation number 5, and this is actually the Poisson's equation. Okay, so del square V is equal to minus rho V divided by epsilon is called the Poisson's equation. Okay, so rho v is volume charge density, epsilon is the permittivity of the medium. Okay, so v is the potential. So now what we will consider is if rho v is zero, that is if the volume charge density is zero, but we will consider the point charge, line charge and surface charge density, they will exist at singular locations. Okay, but volume charge density is zero. If volume charge density is zero, then rho v, that is rho v is zero. So RHS of this term will be zero. Del square v is equal to zero. So this equation is called the Laplace's equation. Okay, so this is the derivation of Poisson's and Laplace's equation. We start from Gauss's law, right? Then we substitute the expressions for D and E in this equation. Then we obtain this del dot del expression. That del dot L, we can treat it as del square, right? Del square V, that is rho V by epsilon minus rho V by epsilon, that is Poisson's equation. If you consider rho V as zero, you get the Laplace's equation. Okay, so this is one of the very important derivations in this particular chapter to derive the expressions for Poisson's and Laplace's equations. Now this operation del square is called the Laplacian. Okay, del square operation is called the Laplacian. If you perform del square on any particular quantity, it's called the Laplacian of that particular quantity. For example, del square v is called the Laplacian of v. Okay, del square v is called the Laplacian of v. So what will be the expansion of this del square? You know what del operation is in rectangular coordinates. Del is dou by dou x of ax plus dou by dou y of ay plus dou by dou z az. This is the del operation in rectangular coordinates. That is partial derivatives of in partial derivatives in x, y, and z coordinate system. So we also know that when you perform the del operation on any vector, right? So you get this. We have seen already. Del dot A is dou ax by dou x plus dou ay by dou y plus dou az by dou z, where ax, ay, and az are the x, y, and z components of this vector A respectively, right? So then if you perform this del operation on a scalar, then you get this, right? Del operation on a scalar is a gradient. Del operation on a vector is a divergence, right? So divergence of a vector is a scalar, right? Whereas gradient of a vector is still a vector. You retain this ax, ay, az components in del v, right? So del v is dou v by dou x, ax plus dou v by dou y, ay plus dou v by dou z, az. So now we want del dot del v. So in place of a, if I keep my del v, if it is del dot del v, what would I get? So del dot del v is dou by dou x into x component of del v. What is x component of del v? Dou v by dou x, right? Dou by dou x multiplied by ax. Ax is the x component of a. Here the vector is del v. So it is x component of del v. The x component of del v is dou v by dou x. So it is dou by dou x into dou v by dou x plus dou by dou y into y component of del v. Dou by dou y into dou v by dou y plus dou by dou z into z component of del v. That is dou by dou z into dou v by dou z. So what you observe now is there is dou by dou x multiplied by dou by dou x, that is dou square by dou x square, right? So it's a second order partial differential equation. You can take it as dou square v by dou x square plus dou square v by dou y square plus dou square v by dou z square. So this is the expansion of this del square or Laplacian operation in rectangular coordinate system. Okay, so del square v is equal to dou square v by dou x square plus dou square v by dou y square plus dou square v by dou z square. So this is in rectangular coordinates. Similarly, you can find in other two coordinate system. So in rectangular coordinates, it is this, as you already seen. In cylindrical coordinates, it is that is in terms of rho phi and z. That is 1 by rho into dou by dou rho of rho into dou v by dou rho plus 1 by rho square into dou square v by dou phi square plus dou square v by dou z square. This is the Laplacian in cylindrical coordinates. In spherical coordinates, it is del square v, that is 1 by r square, that is in terms of r theta and phi, right? In spherical coordinates, it is r theta and phi. So it is 1 by r square into dou by dou r square into dou v by dou r plus 1 by r square sine theta into dou by dou theta sine theta dou v by dou theta plus 1 by r square sine square theta dou square v by dou phi square. So this is the expression for the Laplacian in all the three coordinate systems, right? Del square v is this particular thing. If you want to write the Laplace's equations in these three coordinate systems, you have to equate this to 0. Okay, so if this is equal to 0, that is called the Laplace's equation in rectangular coordinates. This, if this is equal to 0, that is the Laplace's equation in cylindrical coordinates. If this term is equal to 0, that is the Laplace equation in spherical coordinates, right? So this is about the Laplacians and the Laplace equations in all the three coordinate systems. So one of the applications of these, we are going to see this in one particular theorem, that is the uniqueness theorem. Okay, this is another important topic in this chapter, that is uniqueness theorem. Okay, so what we have seen is Laplace's equation is del square v is equal to 0, right? Del square v is equal to 0. So this del square v is actually the second order differential equation, second order partial differential equation. So whenever we say whenever we have a second order differential equation, it should have two solutions, right? A second order differential equation has two solutions. But what uniqueness theorem states is that the solution of the Laplace's equation, if it satisfies the boundary value problems, or if it satisfies the boundary conditions, then the solution is unique. That means the Laplace equation has only one solution if it satisfies the boundary conditions. So by nature, a second order differential equation has two solutions. So this uniqueness theorem says it has got only one solution. That means both the solutions of the Laplace's equations should be equal if it satisfies the boundary condition. So that is what we see in uniqueness theorem, that if at all the Laplace equation satisfies the boundary conditions, then it should have a unique solution. Okay, so the boundary value problems, they can be solved by different methods like analytical method, graphical method, or experimental methods, or any kind of methods. Okay, so this uniqueness theorem, it shows that the solution of Laplace's equations for the boundary value problems is unique. Okay, that means it has got only one solution, or even though if it has got two solutions, both the solutions should be identical or equal. Okay, regardless of the method that you use to solve the particular equation. So the statement, it is given as, if the solution of the Laplace equation satisfies the boundary conditions, then that solution is unique by whatever method it is obtained. Okay, so this is a statement of uniqueness theorem. That is, if the solution of the Laplace equation satisfies the boundary conditions, then that solution is unique by whatever method it may have been obtained. So to prove, we will start from our Laplace equation, that is del square v is equal to 0. When del square v is equal to 0 is the equation, since it is second order differential equation, it has got two solutions, that is v1 and v2. Okay, there are two solutions, v1 and v2. Let us assume that we have two solutions of Laplace equations, v1 and v2. So if these are the solutions, then they should satisfy this equation, right? That means if you substitute v1 in place of v and v2 in place of v, that should hold good, right? It should satisfy the equation. That is, then del square v1 is 0, and also del square v2 is 0, because these two are the solutions of this particular equation. Del square v is 0 and del square v1 is 0 and del square v2 is 0. If del square v1 and del square v2 are 0, then we can write del square of v1 minus v2 is also 0, right? Del square v1 minus v2 is also 0. This you take as equation number 2. Okay, so now every solution of this Laplace equation, we are considering it for the boundary conditions. So if it satisfies the boundary conditions, then we can represent the potential values on the boundaries by VB, by this subscript VB. Okay, so potential on the boundaries is VB. Then the value of V1 on boundary, we can take it as V1B, and the value of V2 on the boundary, we can take it as V2B. They both has to be identical. That is, they are both equal to VB. So if we consider actually an equipotential surface where the potentials are equal, so any potential you take V1, V2, so they all will be equal. That is equal to VB. Okay, so V1, we consider the boundary value of this V1 as V1B. B subscript indicates it is the boundary value. V2 as V2B, they both are equal to VB. That is, V1B is equal to V2B, that is VB. So if V1B and V2B are equal, their difference is 0, right? So if V1B and V2B are equal, that means V1B minus V2B is 0. You take this as equation number 3. So we are going to use this further. That's why we number this equation as equation number 3. So what we have obtained so far, we have got this del square of v1 minus v2 is 0, and also v1b minus v2b, that is difference between the two potentials on the boundary, that is 0. So we are supposed to make use of a vector identity, okay, or a general rule, that is del dot vd. Okay, so del dot vd is equal to v into del dot d plus d dot del v. So this is a vector identity which you can make use of. So what you can see here is del dot vd, v is a scalar, d is a vector. Okay, so if you perform del operation, dot operation of del with the product of a scalar and a vector, this is what the scalar multiplied by divergence of that particular vector plus the vector and the dot product of that vector with the gradient of the scalar. Okay, so which holds good for any scalar v and any vector d. In our case, we will consider the scalar as v1 minus v2. We will consider the scalar as v1 minus v2 and the del operation on this scalar as the vector. Okay, so that is del operation to be a vector, that is del of v1 minus v2. So in place of v, we have to consider v1 minus v2. In place of vector d, we will consider del of v1 minus v2, right? So what we will get in place of v, if I write v1 minus v2, in place of v, if I write v1 minus v2, we will get this, right? So we will get, yeah, in place of v I have written v1 minus v2, in place of v I have written del of v1 minus v2. So that is equal to v. V is v1 minus v2 multiplied by del dot d. D is del of v1 minus v2, right? So v1 minus v2 multiplied by del dot del of v1 minus v2 plus the second term on the RHS is d dot del v. D is del of v1 minus v2 dot del v, del v1 minus v2. So instead of v and d, we have used v1 minus v2 and del v1 minus v2. So you get this. I hope it's clear, right? So this, you can further take this, there is del dot del v1 minus v2. You can take this as del square of v1 minus v2, right? So this is del dot del of v1 minus v2. I can write it as del square v1 minus v2. Similarly, another term is del of v1 minus v2 dot del of v1 minus v2. I can take this as del of v1 minus v2 the whole square. Okay, so further if I simplify this, I will be getting this. That is del dot v1 minus v2 multiplied by del v1 minus v2 is v1 minus v2 multiplied by del square v1 minus v2 plus del of v1 minus v2 the whole square. That's what I said in this case. Okay, so now if you integrate this, we take this as equation number 4. So if you integrate this equation number 4 throughout the volume enclosed by the boundary surfaces that is specified, okay, if you integrate this throughout the entire volume enclosed by the surfaces that is specified, you are going to integrate with respect to volume. Integration of this with respect to v, that will be equal to integration, you are integrating both the terms, right? This with respect to v plus integration of this with respect to v, right? So that the integrals, one on the LHS and two terms on the RHS. Okay, so the first term, you take this as equation number 5. Okay, so the first term that is on the LHS, okay, on the LHS you have this volume integral, right? You have this volume integral. You know the divergence theorem. Using divergence theorem, what is divergence theorem? Integration of del dot d. Del dot d with respect to d is equal to integration of closed surface integral of the vector d, right? Integration of d dot ds. Integration of del dot d with respect to v is equal to integration of d dot ds, right? So this is our divergence theorem. So here on the LHS we have del dot d dv, something like that, right? Del dot d dv. So this is closed surface integral of d with respect to s. This is volume integral with respect to v. So this is del dot. This is a vector with respect to v. This can be represented as closed surface integral of this vector with respect to the surface s, right? So using divergence theorem, the volume integral on the LHS can be replaced with the closed surface integral or the surface surrounding that volume. So that surface, it consists of the boundaries. That surface is actually the boundary surface, right? Which is already specified. And for the boundary surface, V1 is equal to V1b and V2 is equal to V2b, right? and they both are equal. V1b and V2b are equal. So that's why this volume integral, it can be replaced with the surface integral. So that is integration over the surface of, you eliminate this del dot and write only this, right? Instead of del dot d, you will be having d with respect to s. Now here d in our case is this entire term, v1 minus v2 into del of v1 minus v2. Since v1 is v1b and v2 is v2b, we have written v1b and v2b in our case. Okay, v1b and v2b in our case. So that's why we get v1b minus v2b into del of v1b minus v2b with respect to s. Now what is v1b minus v2b? Previously we have seen equation number 3 as v1b minus v2b is equal to 0. So this entire term will be equal to 0. Okay, so that's why the LHS of this equation number 5 is 0, because it is on the boundary conditions. It is on the boundary surface. Then the first term on the RHS, it has this del square v1 minus v2. Okay, del square v1 minus v2 term. So del square v1 minus v2 is 0, which is again from equation number 2. We have already taken this. Del square v1 is 0, del square v2 is 0. So del square v1 minus v2 is also 0, right? So that is what we have seen. Therefore, that particular integral is also reduced to 0. So if del square v1 minus v2 is 0, this integral term becomes 0. Now this term has become 0. The first term on the RHS has become 0. So the remaining term has to be 0. Now what is remaining on the RHS is this term, that is integration of del v1 minus v2 the whole square with respect to v. That term has also should also be equal to 0. That is remaining volume integral must be 0. That is this particular thing has to be 0, right? So when can an integral be 0? An integral can be 0 in two cases for two reasons. Either the integrand has to be 0 everywhere. Integrand means the term inside the integral, it has to be 0 everywhere. Then the integral will be 0. Or the integrand has to be positive somewhere and negative in some other places. Then the entire integration will be 0. So integration means you're summing up all the values, right? So here it is with respect to volume. So summing up all the values throughout the entire volume. So it has to be 0 everywhere, either that is, or it has to be positive somewhere and negative, equally negative in some other places. So when you add them up, the summation will be 0. The integration will be 0. But the term inside the integral in this case is a square term. That is del of v1 minus v2 the whole square. So it cannot be negative, right? This term cannot be negative. That is why only the first condition holds good. That is the integrand has to be 0 everywhere, right? In this case, the first condition holds good because this term cannot be negative because it is a square term, right? So that's why del of v1 minus v2 the whole square has to be 0. If del of v1 minus v2 the whole square is 0, that means del of v1 minus v2 is 0, right? Del of v1 minus v2 is also 0. So what this means, what is this del actually? It is partial differentiation. So if the differentiation of something is 0, that means that particular thing is a constant. So when we have seen the differentiation of a constant can only be 0. So if partial differentiation of v1 minus v2 is 0, that means v1 minus v2 does not change with respect to your coordinate system. So that is what we say, if the gradient, that is del of v1 minus v2 is gradient, right? So if it is 0 everywhere, that means v1 minus v2 does not change with any coordinates. So v1 minus v2 is a constant. So v1 minus v2 is a constant. So this constant, you can find this constant if you are considering a point on the boundary. If you are considering a point on the boundary, v1 is v1b and v2 is v2b. So v1b minus v2b is nothing but 0, right? So on the boundary, the difference between these two potentials is 0. That's why the constant is 0. So if this constant is 0, that is v1 minus v2 is equal to 0, which means v1 is equal to v2. Okay, v1 is equal to v2. If v1 is equal to v2, that is what we started with, right? We have considered that the Laplace equation has two solutions, v1 and v2, and these both solutions are equal. If both solutions are equal, that means the solution is unique. So it is identical. Both the solutions are identical. So this shows that both the solutions are equal and they cannot be different, hence proving our uniqueness theorem. That's what the uniqueness theorem states. That is, if the solution of the Laplace equation satisfies the boundary conditions, then that solution is unique. So we started with the contradictory method. Contradictory method means there are two solutions, that is V1 and V2, and we showed that both the solutions are equal. That means it has got only a unique solution. Okay, so this is one important theorem, that is uniqueness theorem. Okay, so we are going to use this Laplace equations and uniqueness theorem in some applications. So we will look at that in the next class. Most important of them is to find the capacitance. To find the capacitance, we are using these Laplace equations. Find the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor, maybe, or a coaxial capacitor, or a spherical capacitor. For different capacitances, we will find the capacitance using Laplace's equations. Okay, we will continue in the next class.